Good evening, and thank you all for coming out on this cold and rainy evening. My name is Lisa Luby Ryan, and I would like to just take a quick minute to thank a few people before we get started. To Shannon Graham, my amazing co-chair this year, thank you so much. It's been amazing. An amazing journey, hasn't it? To Cathy Sisk, where's Cathy? Our president this year, thank you for taking this journey with us and just letting us do our thing. To Susan Blackburn, our underwriting chair, thank you so much for going to the mailbox and sending those exciting emails every day. Thank you, or weekly. And Ann Carew, thank you so much for trusting us. I know it's hard sometimes, but thank you for your wisdom and your counsel, and we're grateful for your leadership.
It's hard to put it into words what Counsel for Life means to those of us on the front lines.
Like, I'm scared, like, very scared, but with the clinic, they make you feel welcome. Like, they don't make you feel like you don't have anything to worry about.
A lot of times, the girls that come to our center are experiencing, a crisis pregnancy. There are life-giving words that we have for that specific woman that comes through our doors.
Yeah. I'm gonna cry.
It's a powerful moment.
For a 19-year-old, who's still in school or maybe just graduated and not quite on her own, that help could just be, you're not alone. We're here with you. We can help them through this hurdle. Another organization can help them through another hurdle to empower her to feel like she can do it. She can walk through this pregnancy and do it with respect and love and compassion, not only a self-love, but an undying love for her own children. And so if that mother never gives up on her child, then we're never going to give up on her.
Through our partnerships with organizations like Counsel for Life, we get to help people be brave in a time when there's so much uncertainty happening in our world. Today we have a Love Box assembly party happening in our office. The Love Boxes were created because we used to give the pregnancy centers flyers as an invitation for the girls, their clients, to go to a local church that has an Embrace Grace group. But the problem is these girls are in trauma mode. They're freaking out, they're scared, and it's just one more piece of paper. So we decided to change it to a Love Box. It has a Dear Brave Girl journal about being brave. It has a book, A Bump in Life, and it's full of stories of girls that chose life, but they can relate to one of them in there, and they see that if God can do that for her, then maybe God can do that for me too.
How did you first get in contact with Embrace Grace?
I was pregnant at the time. I felt like that I should get an abortion. So that day that I went into Pregnancy Help for You, I got my box. For you. Thank you so much. I read my letter. I looked at my onesies and just all the amazing things that was in the box. And it's just, made me think, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't. Everything happens for a reason. God is here with me, and He wants me to keep my baby. So my son is here today, and I'm just happy that I was able to make that decision to keep up with my kids.
And how old is your son now?
He's 5. So they are both here with us today.
Mucho gusto. Yo soy Elba. ¿Cuál es la que tiene el appointment too?
We get to save hearts. We get to save a mom and her baby. Because if we can save her heart, if we can introduce her to the ultimate gentleman and allow her to fall in love with Jesus, then the baby's okay.
A pesar de que todos están cerca de mí, necesito
No estás sola. Ven, vamos a orar por ti. Una vez más te bendecimos y te damos las gracias.
Then she gets to raise this kid that's emotionally and spiritually healthy. She gets to be a part of this spiritual family forever.
Okay, gracias. Hasta luego.
Crisis can be a really good thing when it leads to innovation. Counsel for Life are part of the reason that we are right across the street from Planned Parenthood's surgical abortion facility. Jesus shows up in the darkest of places. A lot of impact that this virus is having on the community, particularly in South Dallas. These are the hourly workers. These are the restaurant workers, the factory workers, the people that were laid off. This is an opportunity to be men and women of our word. That you believe that you're called to parent this child, then we're going to help you, whether it be education, mentoring, or resources.
The work of Counsel for Life is so important. I think as life-affirming organizations here in the North Texas area, what a beautiful gift Counsel for Life is to be able to not just financially support, but also to watch how they do things. Counsel for Life does things with such excellence that we've learned from their example.
Through the support groups and organizations like Counsel for Life, we get to help people be brave in a time when there's so much uncertainty happening in our world. Never give up.
On behalf of the 2020 Counsel for Life Board of Directors, thank you for being with us tonight. It is an honor and a joy to pay tribute to our beneficiaries, our host committee, and our honorary chairs, Lisa and Clay Cooley. I'm privileged to serve as the president of Counsel for Life for the second year. Because of your past generosity in 2019, we chose a record number of agencies to fund this year, promising a record amount of grants. God knew there would be increased needs to be met. Over the past few months, we have had the privilege of engaging more personally than ever before with our wonderful 19 frontline agencies, who are all doing heroic work under challenging circumstances. The needs are great, as you know. A fun side note, coincidentally, we chose 19 beneficiaries to honor at our 19th Celebrating Life Luncheon. 2021 will mark our 20th year. While we could not have imagined the twists, turns, and uncertainties that have occurred since our luncheon last year, we know that God remains sovereign over all, and we trust in His truth and His desire for us to remain vigilant and in the fight for life. Thank you for sharing this evening with us. And now, it is my great pleasure to introduce our speaker, Benjamin Watson. For such a time as this, he is the man of the hour to share his passion for life. He is a husband to Kirsten, a father of 7, an author, a Super Bowl champion. We cheered for him earlier as we watched his remarkable run in a critical game, and he will inspire us tonight to never give up on the unborn. Since retiring from football, Benjamin has become one of the most outspoken pro-life advocates in media, and he has produced and starred in a pro-life film that was released this year, Divided Hearts of America. He has provided us with a preview of the movie that we are pleased to share with you tonight. Please join me in watching this short video and then giving him a warm Texas welcome on this chilly fall night. Thank you.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. So what you saw was our documentary. It's called Divided Hearts of America. It is streaming now on salemnow.com. Streaming now on salemnow.com. You can go see it there. It'll be there for about 8 weeks. But basically what you saw was the beginning of kind of my journey. And so in the documentary, I interview about 30 to 40 different people from academia, politics, people that were post-abortive, people that are in medicine, people that are pro-choice as well as pro-life. In 2019, we saw New York pass the Reproductive Health Act. And if you can remember, that act basically codified abortion into law in New York. It removed all restrictions. And if you can remember, you saw people cheering and so excited in the State House because they passed this law. And I, like so many of you, were appalled at what was happening, and you saw Illinois in kind pass a similar law. You saw conservative states pass laws on the other side. And so this idea, which I've never been in film, and people are like, why you want to do a film about abortion for your first film? I'm like, well, that's just what God called me to do at this time. And so the idea was born for this documentary, and it took a couple years. We filmed in New York. We filmed on Capitol Hill with different politicians. We filmed in Chicago as well as New Orleans. And what we found was that America is deeply, deeply divided on the issue of abortion. You didn't need me to tell you that. But what I also found was that there is hope. I found that even in people who have experienced the horror, the pain, the violence of abortion, people who are on what we would call the other side, people that are on this side, there is hope. There is a remnant. And the first thing I would love to do is just encourage you and say that you are not alone in what you are doing to fight for life. You are not alone. There are people around the country, people around the world that are like-minded. And what happens sometimes is you feel like you are the only one who is trying to do what is right. You're the only one that is trying to advocate in this way. You may feel down because of COVID. You may feel down because of whatever it is, the economy, sickness, all these things have come about. But the first thing I want to do is encourage you to keep on keeping on. Keep on doing what you're doing. You're not alone. There are others who will stand beside you. The second thing I want to do is obviously get in a Cowboys joke. I never had the opportunity to wear the star. I never did. And I know there's at least one other person that's not a Cowboys fan here, so we're going to hang out. But I played in the NFL for 16 years. I played on 4 different teams. Played in New England. Played in, I'm going to see if y'all cheer or boo. Played in New England. Played in Cleveland. Okay, played in New Orleans. Okay, all right, who that? All right, played in Baltimore. And so, oh, wow, okay. So growing up, I grew up in Norfolk, Virginia, and moved to South Carolina when I was in high school. But my aunt and my grandfather, who's passed away, but my aunt is a big Cowboys fan. I mean, big Cowboys fan. I mean, she's just like, Cowboys, Cowboys, Cowboys. I can't get enough of the Cowboys. And so every time I played the Cowboys in my entire 16-year career, I would get a call from my Aunt Cathy. She'd call me. I might be about to walk into the stadium, or maybe it might be the night before, and she'd call me, pick the phone up. Hey, Aunt Cathy. Hey, Benjamin. We're about to play your Cowboys today. She's like, I know. So I just want to tell you, I hope you do well. But go Cowboys! Every single time. That was like clockwork. She's going to cheer for her Cowboys, life or death. So, there's something about the star, whatever it is, it's magical, but it has a hold on people that crosses their own family, flesh, and blood. Good to be here with all of you tonight. And when I got off the plane today, I thought that we didn't leave. We flew for 4 hours from Boston, but when I got off, I thought he turned around and came back because is it supposed to be this cold? I thought I left that back there in Boston. So I'm glad we are inside in a nice cozy environment tonight as we celebrate life. The landscape when it comes to abortion is something that I don't want to be missed on any of us. And sometimes, even in our conversations at the tables or your conversations outside of this place, sometimes we forget the gravity of the current state, the current situation. And although in total abortion numbers have come down over the last several years, we're still talking about 800 to 900,000 lives that are terminated prematurely in this country. This is something for us to grieve about. It's not something for us to simply talk about as a talking point or simply try to win an argument or try to win a vote or this, that, or the other. Besides all that, there are lives that are at stake. There are lives that haven't been lived. And not only those lives, when we talk about abortion, as a friend of mine talked about in the film, it's not just those lives, it is the lives of all of those that would come from that individual. I'm the father of 7 children. Yep, that's right, 7 kids. I can't believe it either. My wife and I, we met in college at University of Georgia, go Dogs. We're on campus and we met, we said, we did the little dating thing, and then finally we decided, okay, this is serious. And then after my rookie year, we get married. But throughout our counseling and throughout all of our relationship, we wanted 4 kids, a good Christian number, 4 kids. 2 boys, 2 girls, that's what it is, 4 kids. So we got married after my rookie year, waited a couple years, got to know each other. She got to see if she really wanted to keep me because I'm a knucklehead. And then we started having kids, and we had literally 4 kids in 4.5 years. We went straight 2-minute drill. 4 kids, 4.5 years, and we're sitting there like trying to catch our breath. Are you done? I think I'm done. Are you done? And you know how the women get, they see a baby walking by or in a stroller, and they start to get the itch. So we ended up having another baby girl. So we had 2 girls, then we had 2 boys, then we had baby girl. And then, unfortunately, something that has affected a lot of people in this room and around the country, miscarriages. And so we talked about having, my wife loves even numbers. So we tried to have another baby and had a miscarriage, had another one. And then we went to the Lord and said, look, we're going to try this one more time. And if not, Lord, we understand. We're fit. We're good at 5. Try one more time. And we go to the ultrasound. So I'm sitting there in the ultrasound. Kirsten is next to me. The technician has the gooey cold stuff on her belly. I'm looking up at the screen to see what's going on. And by this point, I'm pretty good at reading ultrasounds. I'd have 5 kids. I could tell you everything on ultrasound and how many weeks of gestation. I could tell you all that stuff. So I'm looking, and also we were worried because we had 2 miscarriages, and so we were kind of scared. What were we going to see? So she looks over at the technician and says, "Do you see a baby?" She says, "Well, I see 2 babies." At this point, I walk out of the room. I had to go reset. My mom was there with us. She took her shoes off. She about to start shouting like she caught the Holy Ghost. I mean, it was it was unbelievable, but God blessed us with identical twin boys. So we have 7 children, 11 and under. I have a child for every day of the week, and I tell them, when it's your day to speak, you speak, because all y'all can't talk at the same time. When it comes to abortion, again, this is the civil rights, human rights issue, I believe, of our day. We are one of 7 countries, the United States, who allows elective abortions after 20 weeks. We are one of 7 countries in the world, and our company includes Canada, China, Netherlands, North Korea, Singapore, Vietnam. We are one of the most liberal states when it comes to this issue. So let's not forget about that as we strive on and we persevere, that we have to keep going. We have to never give up. We can't sit on the sidelines, so to speak, when it comes to this issue and think that someone else is going to take care of it. We have to continue doing well. Here in the state of Texas, the great state of Texas, of course. I'm sorry, I should have said great before I said it. 55,000 children die from abortion every year. 12.7% of pregnancies. 149 preborn are terminated daily. That's 3 kids every 30 minutes. Already, as I've been talking to you, 6, 9 children on average are losing their life. And not only should we worry about those children, but we also must care for their mothers. We must care for their fathers. We must care for families. Again, whenever I have an opportunity to talk to people who care about life in this way, I'm always encouraged, and I always feel like I have to remind them that we have to hedge ourselves against this becoming simply a political argument or simply wanting to win someone over. We need to understand that souls are at stake, and that when it simply becomes about winning, that's when progress doesn't get done. That's when it becomes us against them instead of we and us working toward a better future, and we and us caring about families and caring about children and not just caring about, an ideal. The Bible says in Galatians chapter 6, 7 through 9, it says, "Do not be deceived." You might know this verse. "God is not mocked. For whatever a man sows, he will also reap. For the one who sows to his own flesh will from the flesh reap corruption. But the one who sows to the Spirit will from the Spirit reap eternal life." And this is the good part. "Let us not lose heart in doing good, for in due time we will reap a harvest if we do not grow weary." Football is one of those sports that you can grow weary at. It starts in training camp, and it's hot outside, and I'm like, man, if I'm hot in South Carolina in high school, what do those guys feel like in Texas? Oh my gosh. But you do all those things because you have a goal in mind. And so back when I started in the NFL, we used to have something called two-a-days. Now we don't do it anymore for my last half of my career. But for anybody who's played any football or any other sport, in two-a-days, you always want to quit. Every training camp, year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way to 16, my wife was looking at her watch. She's like, it's day 3, 4. Benjamin's going to want to quit football on, there he goes. Babe, I'm done. I can't do this no more. I don't want to play no more. I'm done. She's like, I know. Come on home. You say it every time because it gets hard. But you keep going. Why? Because you see the end. You see the goal. You see the opportunity to win the trophy. You see the opportunity to accomplish your goals. You see the opportunity to do what you've been called to do on the field or in the boardroom or wherever you are, wherever you work. You see that end goal in sight, so that gives you the energy to keep going. And so the parallel there, when we talk about not growing weary and doing well and reaping a harvest, don't grow weary in this fight for life. You may not feel like you're reaping a harvest. You may look at those statistics and those numbers and say, are we making a dent in this thing? And then you hear the story of a young woman whose life has been changed because of one of the organizations you supported. You see something happen that gives you a hope. This is going to be a long journey. On that video that they showed from 2006, I was tired. I don't know if y'all know where that was, so let me set the stage. That was in January in Denver, Colorado, in the mile-high air. And I was bigger then. I was faster because I was younger, but I was like 250-something. I've been working out. I leaned up a little bit. Y'all like it? I was tired. But you know what? There was an end goal. And sometimes there's going to be obstacles. In your life, there's going to be obstacles that you have to overcome. There's going to be lean seasons where maybe people aren't donating. Maybe people aren't as interested. Maybe there are other things that come up. And so the encouragement there is to keep going, to fight through, to keep doing the things that you've been doing because the work matters. There's 3 phases, I would say, of working that I've, just in going around and doing the film and talking to people when it comes to combating abortion. And what I love about Counsel for Life is that there is a spiritual component. So many organizations try to tackle physical problems without addressing the spiritual component. We need both. But we need to be people who are willing to address the spiritual needs of mankind as well as his or her physical needs. So the first one is evangelism. I love seeing the fact that we are doing this because of our love for Christ. Because you have a transformed heart, you operate out of that. You can't help but help people when you understand the love of Christ for you. It flows out of you. It's not duty anymore. You're on mission. The first one is evangelism, which is publicly proclaiming the gospel. Don't forget that part in all the good works. When Scripture talks about don't grow weary and that you'll reap a harvest, part of that harvest is not only the saved human beings, it's the saved souls that are going to last forever, that you are going to see on the other side because of this ministry. The second part is education. And in just a side conversation we were having, so much people in the world, when it comes to abortion, simply don't understand what happens. I had an opportunity to sit down with a woman who actually worked in an abortion clinic. We interviewed her, talked to her, and in vivid detail, she described what happens in abortion procedures, whether they be medical or whether they be in an office. And just hearing it is jarring. It's jarring. But those stories, that needs to be told. That's part of the education. What people want you to think is that this is a clump of cells that has no feeling, that doesn't matter, that is simply doesn't have everything that it takes to become a human being. They want you to know, educate, continue to educate people so that they understand the gravity of what's happening. And thirdly, engagement. And what I see from this organization is engagement. Empowering 19 of them this year, organizations, empowering them to carry out the work financially, by volunteering, by giving in-kind donations. All those things are vitally important. Counsel for Life is a vital connector in ending abortion. A vital connector, supporting families and being a conduit of blessing. This summer in Boston, it was actually hot, for a couple days. It was hot, not 8 months like it is here, but for like 2 weeks there, it was like in the 90s. People were sweating. People were like, oh my gosh, it's so humid outside. Like, girl, it is not humid outside. Like, this is nothing. But so our kid, we don't have a pool, and so the kids were, cramped up because it was COVID, and we couldn't really go to the neighborhood pool and do all those sorts of things. So we wanted to do something nice for them. So we got an inflatable. Those big inflatables with water? You got to see a video. If you go on my Instagram, I have a video, I think, of me sliding down the thing. It's incredible. The things you do for your kids. Anyway, we had this huge inflatable in our backyard. Come to find out, we're renting this house, and we didn't have a hose. And the spigot was at the front of the house, but inflatable was set up in the back. So my wife, in her usual take care of everything fashion, went to Home Depot. If you're a Lowe's person, no offense. Went to Home Depot. She got two, 100-foot hoses and a connector, brought it in, and she told me, babe, the stuff is out there. Go put it together so the kids can get on the thing. The kids are already in their, swimming suits. They're ready. They're like, Daddy, hook the thing up. It's here. We can't get on it because it's hot and there's no water. Would you please hook up the water? So I'll go out there, hook up the first hose, get the second hose, turn on the water, and realize that they weren't connected. So the water was just spraying down the driveway, and the kids were still yelling, Daddy, would you hook the hose up right? I go back, get the connector. Once I put the connector with the two hoses, the kids had the water to enjoy their time going down the slide. They stayed out there for the entire day. The point of me telling that story is that some of us are the hose on the front end. For some of us, God has given us the time, the talent, the treasure to give to different causes, to help people wherever they are. In this case, to help the preborn, to help their families. And he wants us to turn on that hose. He wants us to let our blessings flow through us. For other people, they're the connector. Counsel for Life is a connector. What they're doing, what you're doing, is receiving those blessings, from that spigot, which is God, through the hose. You're taking those blessings through the connector, and you're giving it to the other organizations that can then sprinkle that water to those who need it. All those parts are important. If you don't have the connector, my kids don't get the water, and they burn the little bottoms on the slide. But when you have the connector, you can be a conduit of the blessings that need to go to the specific places in Dallas, in Fort Worth, in the surrounding areas, throughout the state of Texas, through the nation, to the ends of the earth. Keep being a connector. I'm always encouraged, finally, by a man named William Wilberforce. You may know his name. He was born in 1759 in England. He was a sickly young child. He had bad eyesight, but he was wealthy on the other side through his family. His father died when he was young. He went off to go live with his other family members. He was introduced to religion early on in life, but it didn't really stick. He ended up being very, very popular, but due to his intellect, but he was really just a wild dude. Like, supposedly the guy was a gambler. He hung out. He drank all the time. He was a socialite. He did all those things. So he was really a popular guy, but a lot of times not always for the right reasons. He was elected to Parliament at the age of 21 years old, so very young. He ended up knowing, I believe, the prime minister personally, and so that kind of helped, but he was involved in politics, but he was still doing what he wanted to do. It wasn't until a little bit later in his life that God grabbed him, changed his life forever, and gave him a mission to end the slave trade in England, as well as advocate for an entire moral revival in the country. In 1787, Wilberforce wrote a letter in which he estimated that the annual export of slaves from the western coast of Africa and all the nations exceeded 100,000. 17 years later, in 1804, he estimated that 12,000 to 15,000 humans were being enslaved. Every year, the slave trade continued. So he not only was advocating for the end of the slave trade, ultimately, he wanted to abolish slavery in England. And it wasn't like he didn't get a lot of pushback. People had a vested interest. People made money off this trade. People felt like, you know what, live and let live. That's not bothering me. You go ahead and keep doing what you're doing. And they were benefiting on the side. He received death threats. People wanted to take his life. He kept going. He wrote in his diary that God Almighty has set before him two objectives: the suppression of the slave trade and the reformation of morals in the country. And to those two things, he gave his life. Finally, he accomplished it. But it wasn't until he was on his deathbed, literally, that slavery was abolished in England. He gave his entire life. He fought in Parliament over 20 years for this thing to end. And finally, because he did not grow weary, he reaped the harvest that God had pointed him towards because of the work he put in. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not going to be easy. It never is. Nothing good is easy. It's not easy to go through a football season. It's not easy to go through COVID. It's not easy to go through whatever you're dealing with in your life that is tough. It's not easy to keep on fighting in this fight when we talk about abortion and protecting life. Those things aren't easy. But we're encouraging Galatians to not grow weary. How do we not grow weary? Obviously, we rely on a power greater than ours. First of all, you got to know where the source is. You got to know where the faucet is for that hose. Secondly, you got to come together. You have to encourage each other. You have to sharpen iron between each other, iron sharpening iron. You have to encourage one another. When one person falls, if they have someone next to them, how much better is that than if they fall by themselves? Especially when we're doing something that is good. You have to be willing to take a risk. You got to be willing to get up when you get knocked down. You got to be willing to get up when you lose. You got to be willing to get up when you receive threats. I believe and I know that there are people in this room who have had a tough time saying that, you know what, I'm against abortion. What? You got to be willing to take that sort of ridicule. if what you desire to attain is worth anything. Leave you with this last story. I know you probably know many of them, but this I ran across this from a 16-year-old woman in Dallas. She says, I found out I was pregnant through the doctor after thinking I was ill with the flu. Finding out I was 7 weeks pregnant made my heart stop. On top of that, I had to tell my family. Their first reaction was, get rid of it. The hardest thing I ever had to go through was showing up to the clinic and waiting in line for something I was far from ready for. After everything was over, I was so relieved. But after realizing what I had done, it hit me like a Mack truck. This is something that will haunt me forever. It breaks my heart that my baby will never be here again. If you're thinking of having an abortion, don't. It may seem like that's what needs to be done, but it will hang over your heart forever. Before I take my seat, to those of you, men and women who are post-abortive, meaning you've either had an abortion, you've paid for an abortion, or maybe your apathy led to your girlfriend or not your girlfriend having an abortion, there is hope. There is redemption. God is a redeeming God. You have value because he made you the same way as a child does. He can use your story to advance these causes. Live in that forgiveness. Live in that power. You are more than worth it. God bless you.
A lot of the reasons people get an abortion is they don't know what to do and they think there's no way out. They have no support system. And I think you have to get out there and get in front of the people and let them know there is a better way.
It's not just the challenge of an unexpected pregnancy. It's going through the pregnancy, going through the birth, and then the lifetime after in raising these children.
A lot of people don't have a support system, don't have people they can fall back on. They have no money. Life's tough. And I think you have to get out there and get in front of the people and let them know there is a better way. The main thing about Counsel for Life is they vet all the organizations that help everybody. So you don't have to worry about where your money's going, how much of it they're getting, and you know it's going to help the whole family.
And as a supporter for Counsel for Life, they report to the donors, and it's a continual support of the beneficiaries that they serve.
You need to be a patron for Counsel for Life, and it doesn't matter if you're given $25 or $1,000, it all counts.
I just think times are always tough for people with these challenges, dealing with an unexpected pregnancy, but even more so now.
I think some of the times we're living in now is everybody thinks they can do whatever they want, but an unborn baby doesn't have a voice to talk about what they want. They need a voice too.
They've got to have a safe place to turn.
Yes.
And I feel like so many people just feel so overwhelmed with everything going on, and that's why the suicide rate is going up. That's why domestic violence is going up, and we just have to stand up and help to take care of these people wherever we can. And if that means a child, if that means a young family, if that means an unborn life that just began at conception yesterday, we have to stand there and be an advocate for them if we're able. If you care about life and you care about unborn children who do not have a voice, it's more important than ever to support Counsel for Life right now.